Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, I was the only person in my family that ever took care of my grandpa when he was not well anymore. After I inherited his farm, my entitled family was not happy and tried everything in their power to steal my property. Here is what happened. Let's dive right in. The title story starts like this. The thing about family is that they can be a little self-entitled sometimes, feeling that they can help themselves to your stuff when you have worked your butt off just because you share the same blood, grew up together and all that jazz. These same self-entitled individuals will also believe that because you are family, they don't have to lift a finger to help you, but still get to help themselves to your stuff, like in the case with my grandpa. So my grandpa had been ill for a long time after having had a stroke and couldn't take care of himself. He was moved to a warden-controlled nursing home so that there could be someone to help him 24 hours a day. I did not leave him there though, like the rest of the family. I would go around as often as I could, even if it is just for 20 minutes, to make sure that he was taken care of, had everything he needed and the like. It was not until several months later that I found out that none of our other family had gone around to check up on him. Not either one of my two uncles or my auntie or my mom, his daughter, neither one of my elder sisters or younger one. Yes, I'm the only boy of 3 children. When I found this out, I was fuming. I phoned up all my sisters immediately and asked them to explain themselves, and they tell me, "Why would we take time out of our day? You are doing it." The cheek of it. My uncles I could understand. One lived in Scotland and the other one was a long-distance lorry driver who spent most of his time in Europe. My auntie basically said that he was in a warden-controlled house, he should be fine, and my mom could not come up with an excuse, so just said that she was too busy. I've never been so ashamed of my family in all my life. There I was, thinking that we would watch out for each other in dire times, and now I worry about when I get old and senile. And well, after a few years of this and basically giving up on my family, my grandpa had a fatal stroke and then passed away. Honestly, it was the saddest moment in my life. I was in pieces for months and I'm still not fully over it all these years later. Now we come to the meat of the situation though. So my grandpa and grandma used to live in an old farmhouse. It used to be a wheat farm and the house used to be a water mill. It was such a cool house. I loved going there to visit because the stream went right under the house where it would turn the wheel. It had been gutted and converted, but the wheel was still under the house. In the summer, me and my sisters would splash in the stream and kind of swim half crawl under the house to turn the wheel. My grandpa used to get so mad at us, telling us that it wasn't safe and all, but we were kids and there was no danger that could harm us. The house had become known as the Old Mill and had a plaque on the front gate. My grandpa moved into it when he and my grandma were young and raised my auntie, mother and uncles there. It came with all the acres of old farmland as well. The number of times we would go around to visit, find my grandpa out on the right on a mower, mowing the fields. I loved riding on his lap as he went. Though the fields no longer given over to wheat farming, it was still used quite regularly for traveling circus, fetes and fairs. There was even this one weekend when we went around that we saw LARPers using the fields. If you don't know what that means, you should look it up. Metal detectorists used to love scanning those fields too. One even found an old World War II bomb. So back to the story at hand. Though it was no longer a real farm, the old mill still brought in a lot of money with renting out the fields, and my uncles were very keen to get their grubby mittens on it, but they were not the only ones. So my eldest sister wanted the farm for herself as she was about to have her second baby and wanted a bigger place for her family. My auntie wanted the house because she was the eldest and deserved the inheritance more. My mom and dad wanted the farm because they were my grandpa's direct descendants and next in line. The thing is, none of them helped my grandpa when he was struggling. I was the only one that lifted a finger to ensure his last years were as comfortable as they could be. I was not even the one that lived the closest, but I would always get in my car, drive for half an hour to the retirement facility and spend time out of my day looking after my family. The outrage in the solicitor's office when the solicitor read my grandpa's will was something to remember, that's for sure. My oldest uncle was taking pictures of the will to show to his solicitor. I'm pretty sure he doesn't actually have one and just wanted to look like he knew what he was talking about. My mom was in tears and everyone else was calling out that it is not fair and why does he, me, get the farm? He's not even the eldest or in direct line of succession. I think someone has been watching Game of Thrones too much. Anyway, it was all above board, perfectly legal. While they all wallowed in their greedy self-pity, I was rewarded for actually caring for my family. Not that I only did it for the farm, to be honest. I don't really need that level of responsibility in my already busy life. Had they been a little more reasonable, a little nicer, I might have at least let my sister live there, and I would have been more than happy to let my uncles handle the business side of things. I already had a house and not enough time to be organizing the fields. After the hearing, my life got very complicated. It felt like almost every other day that my uncles, auntie or my sister would come knocking at my door and start pleading their case, saying that they should have the house. When I refused, the polite house calls became threatening phone calls and less than polite text messages. I honestly never thought my family would resort to such disgusting behavior, especially towards another member of the family. Who would have thought that I descended from a long line of bloody Karens? My mother had remained distant and quiet so far. I thought she was grieving her father's passing, and it might have been partly true, but she had a scheme cooking up, and about 6 or so months after the reading of the will, I get an official-looking letter telling me that I'm to appear in court as my mother wished to contest the will and sue me for damages. The following weeks were tense and I had no idea what to do. This farm had caused so much trouble and tore a rift between family members. I did not even want it anymore, but if the letter was anything to go by, the trouble had only just started. I got my own lawyer and we prepared over the coming weeks for what my mother might bring against me, and to be honest, I did not even want the farm anymore, but I'll be damned if I was gonna let any of my family have it, not after the way they had behaved. The court date is looming close and my nerves were so frayed, I thought I was gonna snap any minute. My uncles were still harassing me, my sister was still trying to make a case for why she deserved the farm and so on. Then one day, about a week before my mom was going to sue me, I get a call from my lawyer. Mr. OP, not my real name of course, I have some good news. Your mom produced your grandfather's will as evidence and… I cut him off before he has a chance to finish what he was gonna say. But the will says I inherit the farm. Yes, I know, but the will… I cut him off again. So what does she think she's gonna do with it if it says I inherited the farm? Please, Mr. OP, let me finish. I let him finish this time. The will is a forgery. I had my guys look at it. Your mom has dropped the case and… I cut him off for a third time. A forgery? What the actual… We cannot let her get away with this. That's also what I wanted to talk to you about. We can countersue and charge her for forging a will. It's a serious crime. Cocks started whirring in my head and I had a thought. Can I sue the rest of my family too? For harassment or something? There's a second of silence. Yes. What followed was the most entertaining circus of law practice I've ever seen. My mother ended up getting arrested and charged for forging a will, 10 years in prison and a hefty fine. My uncles, auntie and sister got issued a cease and desist order and a restraining order, so they had to stop harassing me about the farm and could not come within 500 feet of it. I ended up selling the property on to build a secondary school under the proviso that it be named after my grandpa. The old mill is still there down the bottom of the sports field, and in a couple of years' time, my own daughter will be going there herself. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, I'm so happy that this story actually took a positive turn and that OP showed his family who is the boss. Also, by the way, in case you were wondering, this story didn't take place in the US, but it took place in the UK. Anyway, if you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment because that would help me tremendously. Either way, the next one is titled Never Steal From Me. This was about 2 years ago while I was living at my buddy's place. His place was not in the best part of town, so theft happens all the time, and for the large part most of these crimes are met with a "sucks to be you" attitude from the police, who then create a report and forget anything happened entirely. Okay, so I wake up early on Thursday morning with a call from my roommate who was running to work at 5 AM and he explains the detached garage has been broken into. The thief broke in through the window and stole a bunch of stuff, with highlights being Milwaukee drills, motorcycle jackets and the receiver and the sub from one of those surround systems in a box packages deals, but leaves the speakers around the rest of the place. Saying I was livid is an understatement. I work hard for my things and I have no intention of replacing them, so some idiot can sell them for a very small profit. So then for roughly the next 4 days, my focus is entirely on this, and you will see why shortly. So I know the chances are slim that I will ever find my stuff, but hey, it cannot hurt to look for it on the common online sales places. I used eBay searching local sellers only, and I put alerts on Craigslist, an extremely handy feature, and I tell my roommate to keep an eye on Craigslist since he has little time. So fast forward to Friday, my roommate calls me up and tells me that he thinks he found our stuff on Craigslist. I pull up the ad, and sure as hell, there it is. This beautiful not too bright gentleman had taken all the stuff he took from us and put it into a single ad in the barter section of Craigslist. He even added the model numbers, not serial numbers, making things very easy to identify. The giveaway was this cheap surround system for which he only had the receiver and the sub, and after a quick search reveals this particular system is only sold as a package, you cannot buy the single components, so this was definitely our stuff. I then called the police thinking case closed, but guess what? They don't care that I found this stuff on Craigslist, and after about 20 minutes of complaining on the phone with non-emergency, they ask me what they want them to do. I say, send a car over here, I want to speak to someone directly. So they reluctantly sent a car with a very nice officer. She was nice, I'm sarcastic but she was really nice, who runs the number associated with the Craigslist ad, and guess what? He's got a rap sheet a mile long and has been arrested like 10 times for theft. With the break-in the case, I think I'm home free, but nope, the cop cannot do anything. The investigator needs to take care of this, she says, and leaves. So I call the investigator, who does not work on Fridays. I ask who I can speak with, so they send me up to the investigator's team line, to which no one answers at all. I try again on Saturday and learn investigators don't work weekends at all, and I would have to wait until Monday before I can talk to my investigator. Good thing crime does not happen on weekends, otherwise cops' weekends would be in trouble. So I call on Monday and Sergeant drags his feet is out sick. It was at that point that I was done trying to call them. I then drove to the police station and demanded to speak with an investigator. I mentioned to this new investigator the situation and the name of the guy who was in the Craigslist ad, and the cop knows him very well and has arrested him on a couple occasions. The cop is confident the police can now help me since I've already done all the damn work here. Finally, the cops tell me to make a meeting with this guy and let him know when and where. So once again the work is on me, and to meet this guy, thanks police. Then I text him a few times with no response, and then I call him and joke around and express interest in a variety of items, most of which are mine, but a few that aren't. Since simply asking for the things from one of the victims is suspicious in my mind, so I tell him I'm Christmas shopping. I then say I'm from out of the area and asked him to pick up the location, and he lists off a few places, one of which is a grocery store with an eyesight of the police station, so I picked that and laughed to myself at how this is turning out. I call the cops, let them know the deal is on, when and where it is. They say they will be in an unmarked car and that I should take my wallet out as a sign to swoop in to make the arrest. So I pull into the parking lot, I see no cops, and I stop and wait. I think the guy's a no-show when he finally shows 10 minutes late. My heart is pounding at this point. I get out, meet the mastermind criminal, and shake his hand. He proceeds to pull out my stereo, then my drills and a few other odds and ends. Before I can get my wallet out, a gold Taurus speeds in and out pops 3 cops with guns drawn, and they handcuff the guy. When this happened, I just turned around and walked away for a second while they put him in the car. The lead cop asks me if this is my stuff, and I say yes, it matches the previously provided description I gave the police. All the while, the guy in handcuffs is yelling, "That's my stuff!" Finally, the cops get a warrant for his apartment to find the rest of all of our stuff and a few other people's things, and I have all my stuff back by Wednesday the following week. He received 1.5 years in a state penitentiary for his efforts. I kind of fixated sometimes, and he got unlucky by stealing from someone who just did not claim renter's insurance. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. This will be a rather basic one, but it still warms my heart. So I used to work in a trade shop run by a great boss everyone got along great with. Except for one of the department heads. Let's call them B. For reasons unrelated to this story, the boss decided to sell the shop to B, and in the wake the majority of the staff quits within months, leaving us understaffed. I naively decided to stick it out and assumed that B would hire people to fill the empty positions, but they don't. We go from a 15-person trade shop down to a 5-person within a year, and that includes the 6 people who turned over. One of the many issues that developed, and there were many, was B's inability to schedule or think through actions to the end and plan ahead. While I worked there, the 2 years with boss, I often came in 10 to 15 minutes early due to the nature of my commute. I would come in, unload my stuff, make some coffee, small talk with my coworkers, shoot the crap with my boss, but we never really started work until everyone's scheduled start time. When B took over, the moment you stepped into the stop, B immediately started to bark orders at you, regardless if you were in building 15 to 20 minutes early. Mostly it's because B was in a rush to get something done they just remembered. When I, the now most senior person left at the shop from the old regime, would point out that we technically were not on the clock yet for another 15 to 20 minutes and I want to make coffee, B would just snap at you telling to do it now because so-and-so is coming right at opening. So I started to wait in my car, bring in my coffee from home, and would only walk in the door as the last minute was changing. I was technically never late to work and was ready to work the moment I stepped through the door. I don't know if B caught on, but the rest of my staff did and followed suit, since I told them to. For the remaining months I lasted there, all my coworkers would still often show up early to work, but all wait in the vehicles. At some point one of them had a minivan and we all partied in there and go in as a group. Anytime a new person joined, because someone walked off, we would also warn them of what would happen. It's been several years since I worked there, I don't know any of the current staff beside B, I happened to be doing an on-site install nearby at the time. That shop would open in and looked over into the parking lot in front of the shop. Like clockwork, a minute before the shop was scheduled to open, about 6 people got out of their vehicles and headed in. I may not work there anymore, but it's nice to see my resistance still exists. And yeah, Ripe stars, honestly, I feel so bad for everyone that works in such a toxic work environment. I would not wish that on anyone. I really hope that if you work a similar job that you are not in such a toxic environment. Nobody deserves that, honestly. And the next one is titled, Me, 27 female, with my 68 female mother-in-law is crazy, thinks I killed my late husband. Hey guys, I heard about Reddit and this subreddit from my friend. She said the people here were nice. Anyway, 3 months ago I lost my husband. He died in a car accident when he was driving home from work. It was a rainy day and the funeral was a week later. Around a week later, I came home from work to find my mother-in-law's car waiting outside my apartment. I had already talked to her at the funeral and honestly, our relationship was rocky already. I think she blamed me for being infertile. I walked up to the car and at the same time she got out. When I went to greet her, she slapped me. I was so confused, she scolded about me not calling her after the funeral and asked me why I was not grieving and at work. I did not tell her, but it was because the funeral was expensive and way out of our budget. After I got back up, she began to threaten to hit me again and said what happened to what her son left her in his will, which made me angry because he had not written his will. We did not think we would need wills this early. When I told her that I was not going to give her anything, she slapped me again and started screaming how I was a WHORE and how I had meant to not have his kids. Over the next week, she harassed me on the phone until I stopped picking up my phone. Around a week after I stopped picking up the phone, I came home to my mother-in-law in front of her car and a moving truck parked outside my apartment. She again demanded that she was promised her share and that she had come to claim it. I again told her no multiple times over the next hour until at last the moving truck guys drove off. She said that I would regret this and left. I did not think anything of it except her harassing me again on my phone, so I blocked her number. She came to my workplace a week later. She verbally abused me in front of all my coworkers, talking about how I married her son for his money, about how I had killed him for his life insurance payout. He did not have life insurance. She came again the next day and my coworkers did not let her through the door. This has been going on for around a week and it is making my life miserable. I don't want to get the police involved. What should I do? Edit, I think I will call the police, but I still don't think I can afford a lawyer. Edit number 2, I'm going to the police station today. Thank you everyone for your advice. I have no idea what to do, whether to see if I can get a lawyer or just stick with a restraining order. I don't know what will happen at the police station either. Edit number 3, it is over. I talked to the police and it took a couple hours to get statements from my coworkers, my boss, and they said it takes around a week to get a restraining order, but if she tries it again they will arrest her. They have not taken any immediate action as they felt it would be a little too rushed with few sources, all of which are biased to me, I agree, but they said if she does it again, she is gone. I guess going to the police was the best option. Thank you everyone. And guys, can you imagine that you need a restraining order against your father or mother-in-law? Honestly, I just cannot imagine how that has to feel, that someone who should be so close to you can be such a terrible person. Have you ever had to get a restraining order against somebody? Let us know in the comments. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.